Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for August 22nd, 2018. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the latest film and TV news. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief Peter Sciretta, and joining me on today's podcast is Slash Film writers Hoai-Tran.
Hey, everyone.
And Chris Evangelista.
Hello.
So let's just jump into the news. Actually, you know what? I do want to plug, HT, you were on the Slash Filmcast this week talking about Crazy Rich Asians.
Yes, I was. I appeared. The episode went up last night. And it was a really fun conversation just about the film itself, its rom-com structure, and sort of the fallbacks that come with it, and also how it feels being an Asian American and watching yourself on screen for the first time. It was a really good conversation. I'm happy they invited me on.
So if you want to hear HT talk about all that with the gang, head on over to the Slash Filmcast and download the latest episode. But let's jump into the news, and first up on our docket is that they are making a movie adaptation of the video game Monument Valley, which I wouldn't normally be that excited about, but apparently Oscar-winning director of Disney's Feast, which is my favorite Disney animated short film of all time, is the one developing it. Chris, tell us about it.
Yes, so Monument Valley is a mobile game. I've never played it, but I did some research writing this story, and it looks very cool. It's a very visually stunning game. There's a lot of like trippy visuals that look like they're taken right out of an MC Escher drawing. And as cool as this looks, I don't really know how you're going to make a movie about it, but they're making a movie about it. Paramount is making a film, and they've hired Patrick Osborne, who, as Peter said, directed the Disney short Feast, and he's directed some other short films, is turning it into a film. He's developing the film for Paramount, and the plot, as far as we know, involves live action characters who go into the world of the game. So I guess it's sort of like Last Action Hero, where instead of getting sucked into a movie, they're getting sucked into this game. Or I guess Jumanji, maybe that's what they're basing it off. I don't know, but again,
this is going to be an animated film, I assume.
It's a mix of live action and animation.
Okay,
so again, visually, this game looks incredible, but it's very much a game. You know, there's not like a plot, so I don't know how you turn this into a film, but I'm sure they'll find a way, because Paramount wants to actually turn this into a franchise, of course, because that's what every studio wants now. Yeah,
they want a cinematic universe, I'm assuming. Monument Valley did play a small part in season 3 of House of Cards, which brought one of the big characters into the mix there. But this is the first time we're going to see it on the big screen, I think. Let's move on to our next bit of news, and that is that Brendan Fraser is joining DC Universe's Doom Patrol as Robotman. HT, you wrote this up for the site. What do we know?
So Brendan Fraser has been cast in one of the lead roles of Doom Patrol as Robotman / Cliff Steele. So he's playing a former race car driver, Cliff Steele, who suffers a horrific accident that renders his body uninhabitable. But miraculously, the mysterious Dr. Niles Calder, who's kind of the mad scientist of this show, saves Cliff Steele's brain and places it inside a powerful robot body. So Brendan Fraser will be providing the voice for Robotman and will also appear in flashback scenes as Cliff Steele, but he's actually not doing the physical performance of the character in robot gear. That goes to Riley Shanahan, who is going to be wearing a full body costume on camera. So this is actually not the first actor to be cast as Robotman in the DC universe, which is the sort of overall title for Warner Brothers TV's streaming service. Jake Michaels has been cast as the character in Titans, which is the sort of predecessor to Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol is a spin-off of Titans.
I don't is this something you're going to watch?
Probably not. Okay, so I am a huge Young Justice fan, and I love that show enough that I'll probably subscribe to DC Universe just for that show. But everything else, I am just not interested in at all. Even Titans, which is a team that is very dear to my heart. After seeing the trailer for that and the infamous trailer, I lost interest immediately.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be anything I'm watching. But Brendan Fraser hasn't had that many gigs as of late, right? Like I can't remember the last time I saw him on the big screen.
he was in Trust recently, which is the what network is it? Is it FX? It's a TV series that deals with it's the same plot as All the Money in the World. I forgot the name of the person who is at the root of this of the series. Yes, it's FX, I think, and and it's about John Paul Getty's this kidnapping of John Paul Getty's grandson, and so Brendan Fraser stars in that, and apparently he's very good. And some people are even saying that like this is the beginning of the Brendan Fraser songs. Maybe we'll see more of him, and I hope we do, because I think that he's an underrated actor, and I feel kind of bad that he's kind of slipped by the wayside. But I don't know if Doom Patrol is the right step for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure as well. We've been talking a lot lately about James Gunn and the situation with him being let go from Disney's Marvel Universe in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. He was supposed to be at Comic-Con before, that whole thing happened to not surprise, because I guess he tweeted about it, promote this secret horror movie that he is producing. And we now have word that it's coming out later this year. Chris, what do we know?
So let me preface this by saying, even though everyone is calling this the James Gunn horror movie, even Sony is calling it that, it's not actually a James Gunn horror movie because he didn't actually direct it. He's just the producer of the film. David Yarvosky is directing it, and he's a longtime James Gunn collaborator. He actually directed the Guardians Inferno music video for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. He's actually the director of the film. And we really don't know much about this movie. We know it's a horror movie. We know that Elizabeth Banks, who was in James Gunn's Slither, is in it. But beyond that, the project remains a mystery. This was, we were supposed to get our first look at this at Comic-Con, but literally, I think it was the day the trailer was supposed to air at Comic-Con, the news of James Gunn's firing broke, and they obviously canceled the panel. So after that, it wasn't clear what was going to happen to this film, but Sony has confirmed they are still releasing it, and they're going to release it November 30th of this year, which is relatively soon. So I can only imagine we'll know sooner or later what this is, what the title is, what it's about. Probably have a trailer, but for now we know it is definitely still coming out this year.
It's funny because I see some, reaction online like, oh, it's good that Sony picked up James Gunn after he got fired from Marvel. And it's obviously anybody that knows how Hollywood works, this film was produced way before any of that ever happened. So that's not the case at all. We still don't know where James Gunn will end up, or what he will be doing next. We don't know anything about this movie. There's not even like a rumored plot synopsis.
There's rumors that it might be this video game adaptation. I don't even know I think it's called like Bloodborne, which I really don't think it is, because this seems like it's a very low budget indie horror film, and I just don't see it being a secret video game adaptation. I feel like it would be a bigger movie if that were the case. And, I don't know like what Elizabeth Banks would be doing in a movie like that. So I have a feeling this is going to be more like something like the Belko Experiment, which James Gunn wrote and produced, or even Slither, where it's sort of like a weird mix of comedy and horror. But like I said, this is all speculation, so we don't really know.
Yeah, well, with it coming out in November, we should find out soon enough, unless they're going to pull like, a Cloverfield and release the trailer, 2 weeks before it comes out. But, that didn't work out that well for the Cloverfield Lane box office. So I think they're going to start promoting this soon. But let's talk about Funko Pop has announced that they are releasing Stranger Things Pops, but not just of the Stranger Things, the characters, but of the directors. HT, what do we know?
So Funko Pop announced that they are releasing a Funko Pop 2-pack of the Duffer Brothers. That's Matt and Ross Duffer, who are the showrunners and creators of Stranger Things. And this is kind of the latest in their filmmaker toy line. And
yeah, I think they call it the Director Series.
Yes, the Director Series. So this is going to be available at Hot Topic exclusively sometime before the end of August. And this is like I said, the latest in the director series. We've seen directors such as Guillermo del Toro, Alfred Hitchcock, Taika Waititi, James Wan. So
and even James Gunn.
And even James Gunn, it's true. So this is an interesting choice because I don't really know anyone who really knows what the Duffer Brothers look like. And even their Funko Pops kind of just look like they've copied and pasted the format of each of them with like different hair. They have the same goatee even. So they're very indistinguishable looking men. And I wouldn't say...
It could just be like generic white fanboys figures.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if the Duffer Brothers have that much of a following outside of Stranger Things, so it's kind of an odd choice. What do you think about this choice, Chris?
Yeah, I love Stranger Things, and I like the idea of these director pops, and I don't have anything against the Duffer Brothers, but they're just guys. They're two random dudes who got really lucky. I think it's weird that they're getting their own toys, like, because I honestly think if people saw the Duffer Brothers on the street, they would have no idea who they are. They wouldn't be like, "Oh my God, there's the Duffer Brothers." Like, no one would ever say that.
Yeah,
they would just look like.
But I don't even think they would know who Ryan Coogler was. I
don't know. I feel like maybe they would, because I don't know. I don't know. I just don't think the Duffer Brothers. I feel like Ryan Coogler is more well known than the Duffer Brothers. Ryan Coogler directed Black Panther. He directed Creed. People know what he looks like. I don't think people really know what the Duffer Brothers look like, honestly. Like I've seen pictures of them, and every time I see a new picture of them, I'm like, oh, that's what they look like. They're just nondescript men. So, but it's fine. I don't want to make too big a deal about it because, there are worse things in the world than Duffer Brother Pops. But,
yeah. I do agree with you with their look. It's very generic. We don't know what they look like. That's the problem here. But I do need to take you to task, Chris. You said that these guys just got lucky? Like, I don't know. That feels a little...
Come on. They got really... Well,
they wrote the first season of that M. Night Shyamalan series. What was it called? The name
Wayward Pines?
Yeah, Wayward Pines.
Yeah, look, but that's just Twin Peaks, and Stranger Things, as good as it is just E.T. meets Stephen King. Look, they're fine. Stranger Things is really entertaining, but these guys got really... Their whole thing is they just take other people's ideas and repackage them in a new shiny package. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but let's not act like these guys are, geniuses. Let's not get carried away here. That's all I'm saying.
I do think it is a little too early for them to have their own action figures, which does bring the question, which directors should Funko Pop actually make figures of for their director series? I know in our Slack channel the number one that we were all talking about was Steven Spielberg, and that's the one I would want the most. I would want George Lucas. I feel like those two are like the most obvious though, and probably the two guys that would not want to license their image to Funko to produce figures of them. But I wanted to ask you guys, like, who are some filmmakers that you would want to have on your desk as Funko Pops? Chris, do you have any ideas?
I would definitely love, aside from Spielberg, I would love a Martin Scorsese one. Also because I feel like that would make a really good pop. Because the way those Funko Pops work is they need distinguishing features, and Martin Scorsese has those huge eyebrows, so you could just translate them onto the toy, and you would instantly be like, "Oh, that's the Martin Scorsese pop. I know who that is." So that would probably be my number one besides Spielberg.
I was thinking a long time about this, and like a lot of my favorite filmmakers, outside of the ones I've mentioned, do not really have distinguishing features. Like, they're not iconic in the same way that like Spielberg or George Lucas or I don't know,
Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, Alfred Hitchcock. So like, if you had a Darren Aronofsky pop, it would just look like a guy with a scarf. Do you know what I mean? Like
it would just be a giant scarf.
Yeah. HT, who would you want to see?
So the director of Funko Pop I want the most has already been made, and that's Guillermo del Toro. And but I think if you're going to do a sibling duo of filmmakers, the Wachowskis would be a good choice because they do look very distinguishing and they have had such a colorful and quality career as opposed to the Duffer Brothers. I mean, I feel like this is us sitting on the Duffer Brothers a lot, and I don't mean to say that I hate Stranger Things either, but it's just, yeah, it's an odd choice, but I think the Wachowskis would have been a very good sibling duo for this.
You know, it's frustrating to me because, you know, I've refused to collect Funko Pops because I'm one of those people that's a collector. I have the collecting genes. So as much as I love these cute things and, you know, I love Star Wars, and I was tempted so much in the early days of Funko Pop to like collect, you know, the Star Wars collection, I would have to own everything. And as we know, Funko Pop makes like hundreds and hundreds. I mean, they're making Funko Pops of the Duffer Brothers, so they make Funko Pops of everything, and I just can't get into it. And I've often contemplated getting into this director series because I don't feel like I felt, at least when they started doing it, that they couldn't probably, you know, it couldn't be the problem that is with the other lines, but you know, now they're in the Duffer Brothers, and now it's too late. If you want Paul Feig, which I think was the first one that they released, I think they made so few of those that they go for like $500 on eBay. And you know what? God. I don't like Paul Feig that much. So or James Gunn. I think James Gunn, at least before the Marvel stuff went down, was going for a couple $100s. So I wonder if that has tanked the value of his Funko Pop or not, or if that even changes the marketplace with that. H, did you have any other ideas other than the Wachowskis? I think that is a great idea, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I would like personally a Richard Linklater one, but then again, he's also very undistinguishable. Maybe have like a little gray, like wavy hair or something, but otherwise he kind of just looks like a lot of other white male directors.
Chris, do you have any other last suggestions for Funko Pop? I'm sure they're listening to this podcast.
Maybe Rowdy Roddy Harrington, the director of Roadhouse. Give me that. I would take that.
I don't think we're ever going to see that, but
never say never.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Funko could go through the entire lineup of film directors today and yesteryear and get to that point where they have to make that. I just don't think so. Okay, let's move on to our next bit of news, and that is the needless Jacob's Ladder remake, which is coming next year. Chris, you wrote this up for the site.
I try not to be too negative about remakes. I am definitely not anti-remake. I do think if someone has a really interesting new take on an old story, it could turn out really well, especially the horror genre. There have been some excellent horror remakes like, you know, The Thing and The Fly. That said, we really do not need a Jacob's Ladder remake. But we're getting one anyway. It'll be out in February of 2019. The idea for this remake has been kicking around for a little while. It was officially announced in 2014, and then sort of word of it sort of died down for a while. I think we all were just hoping if we stopped giving it attention, it would just go away. But no, apparently it's made and it's going to be released relatively soon. February is really not that far away. David M. Rosenthal is directing it, you know, whatever. Jeff Bueller wrote the script. He also wrote The Midnight Meat Train. That's, you know, whatever. Look, maybe this will turn out good. You know, I will reserve full judgment until it's actually out and I see it. But as of now, my knee-jerk reaction is this is a bad idea because the original film is really good. And I don't really know how you would really even improve that, especially because, you know, that film, it came out in 1990, and I feel like so many films since then have borrowed from this movie, especially like The Sixth Sense. You know, a lot of horror movies with twists and stuff like that really are drawing from this movie. So it's sort of like already saturated into the zeitgeist. So to remake it now seems foolish, but again, we'll see what happens.
You know who needs a Funko Pop? The guy that did Midnight Meat Train.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to Crazy Rich Asians. They have announced a sequel is moving forward with filmmaker Jon M Chu returning to direct. HT, what do we know?
Yeah, so after the debut of Crazy Rich Asians vastly exceeded expectations at the box office this weekend, Warner Brothers is moving forward with the Crazy Rich Asians sequel. Director Jon M Chu is set to return, as well as the first film's writers, Peter Sciretta and Adele Kim. So this is probably going to adapt Kevin Kwan's second book in the trilogy, which is called China Rich Girlfriend. And I won't go into the plot of that because it will spoil the movie for people who haven't seen Crazy Rich Asians. But there is a trilogy that this movie will potentially, or the series will potentially adapt. And the first film actually laid the groundwork for the trilogy as well, with a mid-credit sequence featuring Harry Shum Jr., in case you saw that sequence and you were very confused about what it all meant. So it will focus more on Constance Wu as well as Gemma Chan's character.
And you mentioned this is based on a book. I mean, this whole series was a trilogy of books, and I know when Netflix was originally trying to get this, they were offering to greenlight a trilogy, and the filmmakers decided to go theatrical over with one movie rather than go for this trilogy. Now that they made that decision, it looks like it might have paid off. What do you think, HT?
Yeah, I think that this could definitely set the groundwork for a trilogy theatrically. And while they haven't greenlit a third film yet, with them moving forward with a sequel so soon after the first movie release, it's possible that we'll see like a whole franchise of this.
A whole Crazy Rich franchise. That's what Hollywood wants. You know, Jon Chu could make an interesting Funko Pop. Maybe. I don't know. I was also thinking, I forgot to mention before, not to keep this about Funko Pop director series, but I would like a J.J. Abrams Funko Pop. I feel like his hair and glasses have an icon. He's one of the directors of today that I think still has, that kind of Spielberg iconic look to him.
Actually, I'm surprised there isn't a J.J. Abrams one already. I can already imagine it. I feel like I'm getting some sort of deja vu.
Yeah, and before going into our last story, this reminds me, seeing these composers' names, I would love to have a David Fincher Funko Pop. Just him, standing there, looking, annoyed that he's a Funko Pop. I just feel like I could totally see that Funko Pop face in my imagination. Anyways, let's move on to that. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are going to score the Jonah Hill's directorial debut. Chris, what do we know?
So Jonah Hill's directorial debut is called Mid-90s. It's yet another film from A24, and it's also yet another coming-of-age film from A24. I guess they're sort of carving out a niche there, and that's what they want to keep putting out. And Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who have worked together on Social Network and Gone Girl and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and they've also, of course, worked together with 9 Inch Nails, are doing the score, which is both exciting and a little curious, because I love their music. I love their soundtracks, but they tend to produce really dark, droning, unsettling music. And when I watch the mid-90s trailer, I don't really get dark and unsettling from that. So I'm wondering if they're going to lighten up a little bit for the soundtrack. And I'm curious to see how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, it's also weird because, I love these guys and I love all the scores that they have done thus far. But for some reason, I just had assumed that Jonah Hill would be, using a soundtrack of the 90s hits that he grew up on, rather than going with a formal score. HT, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I'm on the same boat as you, Peter. I thought that Jonah Hill would go for a 90s hip-hop, maybe ska soundtrack. That's something that's very so much associated with the skater culture. So, yeah, it's a very out-of-the-box choice, I think, for this kind of coming-of-age movie especially. But, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting because I always associate Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross with, an electronic sort of style that we've heard in the Social Network, for example. So I don't really know how it'll pan out with mid-90s.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to blend with this 4x3 shot film. Actually, Chris, do we know, is the film actually presented in 4x3 or is that just the trailer?
I think it is how the film is going to look too. Yeah.
Okay. As I was saying it, I was like second guessing myself. I was like, oh, maybe that was just a trailer presentational thing. But yeah, I feel like the scores of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, something that feels more 2000s than 90s. But we'll have to see. One thing's for sure, Jonah Hill has good taste in music. So I'm excited for this. But that brings us to the end of today's Slash Film Daily. If anybody out there has suggestions on who you'd like to see as in the director series for Funko Pop, send it to the mailbag at peter@slashfilm.com. And maybe if we get some interesting results, we'll read them on the air. Please leave your name and general geographic location in case we mention it on the air. Chris, where can people find more of your work online?
I'm on slashfilm.com every day, and I'm on Twitter at Evangelista413.
HT, where can I find you?
I'm also on Slash Film every day, and I'm on Twitter at HTranBuoy.
You can find me on all social media at Slash Film. You can find all the articles we talked about on today's podcast on slashfilm.com and linked in the show notes. This podcast, Slash Film Daily, is published every weekday on slashfilm.com and all the popular podcast apps. That includes iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Overcast. Please go rate and review this podcast on iTunes. Tell your friends, spread the word, and we'll see you tomorrow.